Now, something happens towards the end of the year with most people around this planet. Because we are stuck in this timeline, and as the year progresses, it seems like the pressure mounts. Because the end of the year, things need to happen faster, people get irritable, people get tired. It is funny, I don't know if you've observed it, but it seems like there's more accidents on the roads. It's just like the end of the year becomes a bit more chaotic. But there's a reason for that. We call it tired mind disease, although there's not an official label like that, but it is something that happens to people the last quarter, well, the last part of the year. And the mind gets tired because of all of the year's pressures, responsibilities, challenges that happened, traumas that happened to people. So the mind gets tired. But if we say the mind gets tired, it is funny because what is actually happening? What is the part that is getting tired? What is the part that exhausted? It's not your mind that really gets tired. It must be a physical thing, right? Because you physically experience tiredness, okay, lethargy, maybe memory, struggle to remember everything, right? There are certain things that happen under the stressful conditions. But what is the mind? Why is it being attacked? Why is it tired? Okay, there's a difference between the mind and the brain, right? People say, oh, the brain, the mind. Yeah, they are different because the brain is like the physical structure that houses your thoughts. Okay. Almarie, ons noem dit silly season. Yeah, we're going to get to that. The habitual labeling of things. Okay, those habits, you must watch those habits and those words, but we'll get to that. Okay. When we talk about the mind, what is it? It is your thoughts. Now, some people believe the brain is like a receptacle, it's a receiver. So it receives information. We don't really generate thoughts, we receive thoughts. That's a weird concept. Okay. But if you see people who are close to death or people who experience stuff under anesthesia and their mind separates from their body and they still have thoughts, those thoughts are not housed in the body because the body switched off. So there are certain things that we just don't understand very well. Still, with all the scientific things we go through and with all the scientific things that are happening on this planet, the mind and consciousness is a hotly debated topic. Okay, some people will argue life and death about it. Some people will say they know exactly what it is. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is to know how to navigate the mind. Okay, so if we have tired mind, and if we are exhausted and we've got all these responsibilities, what can we do to actually start to declutter the mind? That is the first step. We need to declutter the mind. Okay, I don't know if you know, but the universe is actually very chaotic. Everything around us, nature is chaotic. If you leave nature, it overgrows. If you leave things, it just festers. If you don't clean, it becomes dusty. And we need to remain, or we need to create order in this chaos the whole time. It's like a constant battle to create order in the chaos. There's a reason for that. We like order to a certain degree. We like certainty to a certain degree. We like specificity to a certain degree. So now, if you have to declutter your mind, the specificity part is to write things down in time and space because the mind can go anywhere. Okay, I keep on saying this. The mind is like a minefield. If you put a thought in there, it can go to the past, the future, friends, family, disappointments, animals, children. It goes everywhere. It can go to the planets in the outer space. You can literally guide the mind anywhere. And sometimes you don't even have to guide it. It just goes off on a tangent. So to anchor it a bit better and to actually make it more peaceful, we need to write things down. Okay, that is why you have your notepad and your paper. I want you for the next, I'm going to give you 2 to 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long list, but write down all the things that are bothering you in this moment. You're not going to share, don't worry. You don't have to share what's on that piece of paper, but just write down. Can be family, friends, relationship problems, financial problems. It can be health. It can be just write down what is the biggest challenges in your life in this moment. Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes. And it can be, it doesn't have to be big because we don't want to compare people's problems. Your problems are not less or more than other people's problems. Your problems are real for you. So no matter how silly it sounds, write it on that piece of paper and just make a list of the stuff that you are dealing with. Just short descriptions like family, maybe health, finances, maybe not good. Just a short description of the problem, what it is, and how you feel about it. Okay, now, as you write that down, I want you to feel while you are writing what your response is to what it is you're writing and what it is you're reading. That's a crucial key to this, okay? People just write things down for the hell of it, but they don't sit in the moment and experience what those words are doing and how does it feel writing them down and actually reading them on paper. Now, whether it's a good or bad thing for you, the response will be different. If you, excuse me, if you write something that's traumatic, you might look at it and think you might expect trauma. But what's happening here is we're writing what's happening in the head on a piece of paper and you're dissociating from it. So you are setting yourself past that problem. You're not in the problem, you're taking a step back from it by jotting it down on a piece of paper. Now, on that piece of paper, when you wrote the problems down, I want you to think which one deserves your attention the most. If there's an urgent one, just put a U next to it or a mark next to it or a cross or whatever you say. What in those things that you wrote down would be the most urgent one that needs your attention? And don't mix up prioritizing with urgency. Most people do not prioritize money, but money, if you don't have it, becomes an urgent thing that you need. Okay, so there's a difference, right? The most urgent thing usually is health. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. Okay, good luck. You're not going to be able to do anything. So if you're struggling with health stuff, that's probably the most urgent thing that needs your attention. Now, if you've written down your list and you say what's urgent, what are the things that can wait on that list? It's got like 2 or 3 things. What's the thing that can wait? What's the thing that's most urgent? What's the thing that can wait? Very simple process. Okay. As you write the thing that's most urgent on the list and you write the thing that can wait, there will be 2 different responses to those things. But both those different responses will be more control over what you are writing. The mind can make a bit more sense of it. Now, the urgent one, there's a very important question you need to ask yourself surrounding the urgent things that need to happen. What is it that you can control surrounding the urgent situation? What is it that you cannot control around the urgent situation? Okay. Because unfortunately, with today's society, there are so many quick fixes and we see so many short videos on the internet and social media. Those short incremental images creates a lot of stress on the mind and the nervous system because there's no solution, there's no specificity. It's just energy draining. So when we come to something urgent and we say, what can we control around this urgency and what can we not control around this urgent situation? It just categorizes these things a bit more clearly. It creates more structure. And what did we say about specificity? The structure that we create with writing these things allows the mind to read it and to calm down a bit. Okay, because as you put on paper, and it's so amazing because you can have a person lying on their deathbed. If they do this exercise, they separate themselves from it. You can have a person in the most dire situations. If they write it down, they actually create a little bit of peace for themselves. Okay, so that writing is something that you put on a piece of paper. Say what's the urgent thing, what's the thing that can wait, and with the urgent thing, what's it that you can control and that you can't control? That brings a bit more peace and structure to the mind, and the mind don't have to waste energy on guesswork. All right. We love to guess. Okay, that person, of course, feels like this. That person thinks this. That person does this. Oh, yes, guess, guess, guess about situations, about politics, about people. Rather ask. Okay. Oh, I wonder what my husband thinks of this. Oh, I wonder what my wife thinks of this. And I ask people, but don't you ask? No. Why not? Where's the communication? Okay. Rather ask than wonder what the person's thinking about a certain thing. Okay. because we have this habit of prophesizing, or yeah, we have this habit of trying to imagine what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen, and then we become psychic, and then we just, this is going to happen. Okay. That's not to be mistaken for a sixth sense. Okay. People who've got a strong sixth sense, they are usually, if they learn how to manage that sixth sense, they are usually quite calm. They can actually observe a situation and detach themselves from a certain situation. Then the sixth sense start to actually expand. It's not an emotional thing. So rather sit back and ask. Do not think that you know. And if you want to practice this, you also write it down. People say, yeah, but how do I communicate? It's difficult for me. Then write down. If you have to write down a story or a conversation between you and the person you need to communicate with, write it down. What would that person say? What would you ask? What would you hope that person would get out of the conversation? What would you like to get out of the conversation? What would you like to learn about this conversation? Just write that down and let it be. The moment you write things down, the mind just calms down a bit. So that's the first step. Okay? It's decluttering the mind by writing things down. It helps a lot. If you're like me and you sometimes can't read your own handwriting, sometimes doesn't help because it's like, what the hell did I write here? Okay. But yes, that takes practice and patience because sometimes my handwriting is very funny. And I'm like, oh no, I can't remember what I wrote here. But it just gets it out. The second thing to calm a stressful mind or to actually train it to be more resilient is breathing. Breathing has been underestimated on this planet for a long time, except the people that know how to breathe, what type of breath work they can do. And breathing is actually insane, what it can do to calm a mind and what it can do to anchor your mind and relax it a bit. The most common exercise is box breathing. We call it box breathing because it looks like a box. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, inhale again, and you do that. That's a common one, but it takes a bit of practice, especially on the exhale. When you breathe out and you hold your breath for 4 seconds, sometimes becomes a challenge, especially if people are not used to breathing. Okay, that's the first basic one. Another nice breathwork technique is when you inhale as much as you can, and then inhale a little bit more, and then exhaling for a long time. Why? Because when we inhale, what happens to the heart? Starts palpitating faster because you are creating pressure with the lungs when you inhale. When you exhale, the pressure releases and the heart rate drops a bit. Okay, so we try and exhale longer than we inhale. So instead of the 4-4-4-4 box breathing, we'll go 4 breaths in, okay, 4 breaths hold, and 6 breaths out. So it's just 3 steps instead of 4 steps. So you're trying to play with those two breathing patterns. Okay. If you do them correctly, if you do them for a little while, please don't push yourself to get lightheaded when you do breathing exercise. That's not the point. That's going to cause more stress. So see what works for you. Some people can breathe in for 6, and exhale for 8. Some people can breathe in very slowly. Some people can exhale very slowly, but you find something that works for you. There must just be flow. Okay. So 2 types of breath, the box breathing or the 4-4-6 breathing, where you inhale, hold, exhale. It's actually quite a nice way of relaxing the mind. Incidentally, if you are writing things down, what's your breathing? What's your response? Okay. I'll maybe do another journaling exercise like I did with the group last time, but that's like 4-day thing. We would take 4 days, take about 45 minutes to an hour, and I just sit with you online and we do writing. What you can see on the screen sometimes when people write traumatic things is the body posture, the holding of the breath, the clenching of the. Sorry, but wait a minute, check in what you're doing. So I guide people through that. It's just easier because you can't see yourself when you're writing. It's difficult to observe yourself while you're writing. And then there's tears flowing and the breaths being held and so many things happens. And it's just nice if somebody guides you through it while you're writing. It just helps a lot. So be aware of what your breathing does when you're writing, especially certain words, especially certain things that you are dealing with. It'll help the mind tremendously this time of year just to relax a bit. Okay. Now, habitual sayings. Okay. It was Elmarie that jumped the gun a little bit with this one, where she said, ons noem dit silly season. Okay. When we use habitual words and we don't question them, the power of belief makes those words ridiculously powerful. Okay, like people say, oh, I never have enough time. Oh, I'm always stressed. Oh, I cannot handle, I feel overwhelmed all the time. These things that you utter become a habit because they come from a certain thought process in your mind and you are spewing them out without thinking about them. Okay. So if we go into silly season, what is the silly season? What will your mind observe? It will observe all the silliness. It will latch on to the silly season stuff. It will try and survive and this and take information out of it and try. We need to watch what we say. All right. So in order for you to keep the mind a bit more calm, if you have habitual sayings, and most of us don't even realize we have them, it takes such an awareness just to observe because they come out immediately. Observe people who talk to you, observe the patterns of speech that they use, observe the things that they are saying. Many years ago, many years ago, I was in London and this one girl told me, yeah, you're a South African. South Africans have a certain way of saying, and they've got all these things that they say over and over again, but you don't. And I'm like, that's strange. I didn't know what she meant by that. But South Africans do have things like, oh, lekker, oh, sharp, oh, this, oh, this. We've got these little nuances that we have. And she picked it up. And while I was talking to her, she said, but I don't do that too much. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's when I actually started trying to observe what I say when I say it. What are the habitual things that I'm trying to say? Like everything, every time something happens that's challenging, people go, this is bad, this is bad, oh, this is terrible. This is, I'm like, breathe. Why you keep on repeating this is bad, this is bad, this is terrible, this is terrible? Just for an example, watch what the habitual sayings are that you actually utter, because they create a lot of stress. They come, like I said, from a certain thought process. And if you question what you are saying, you'll understand the thought process behind the words a bit better. Right. That's funny. Some people, I don't know, the words just they don't communicate. They just use these words that they throw around and then it becomes terrible. Right. If the mind likes specificity, and especially this time of the year, if you're under pressure and there's so many things happening and you have deadlines, even the word deadline, it's a terrible word. People throw it around. I've got deadlines, I've got deadlines, I've got deadlines. I'm like, how can we just, can't we just change that to what is the timeline for this event? This timeline needs to end in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. Don't make the deadline in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That deadline, can you imagine if you hear the word deadline, deadline, deadline the whole time in your mind? And people use it in companies all the time. It's a nightmare. Okay. So we want specificity according to the timeline. One of the rules of manifestation is writing things down in time and space. That means being specific. I've got a 2 week timeline, a 3 week timeline, a 4 week timeline for this project. Not a deadline in 4 weeks or a deadline in 2 weeks. Then the mind can go, okay, I've got a 2 week timeline, can rest a bit. When something happens in those 2 weeks that challenges your time management, the mind doesn't freak out too much. Because we've said, right, we've got a 2 week timeline. But it takes practice. Okay, it takes practice. It's like anything else. You have to practice how to guide the mind to certain things. Because subconscious communication takes practice. We've never been taught how to use it. Well, most of us. Who taught you about the subconscious mind? For me, it was such a weird thing to hear about when I started with these things many years ago. Like, what the hell is the subconscious mind? How do we learn how to use it and how do we incorporate it into daily life? So it does take practice. Okay. Another tip that happens this time of year is to allow the mind to anchor itself in the present moment. All right. There are a couple of teachers that just teach us the power of the present moment, the power of the now. Okay, they all understand one common thing. The mind that's anchored in the now cannot stress about the future or past. If you do something that's adrenaline rush or adrenaline worthy, say for instance, you ride a motorbike and you ride fast. In that moment, the mind cannot worry about the future and the past. It has to worry about focusing on what's happening in this moment because things are happening. There's no time for it to shift forwards, backwards in the past. Okay, it has to calculate, has to observe, you have to focus on staying on the bike, must be aware of what's happening around you. So the mind gets trained in that moment. So how do we train the mind to anchor in the moment? If you are sitting around you, that pen that you wrote with, the paper that's on your table, the chair that you're sitting on, if you start questioning yourself around things that's around you, for instance, this keyboard of mine, what color is it? Okay, it's black, it's got an R on the bottom. I'm trying to see what it looks like, what it feels like, the sound the keyboard makes. Okay, I'm trying to get the mind totally involved in the present moment. If you do that for a minute or two, it's amazing what happens to the nervous system. It can relax a bit. Okay, but what do most people do? They lock the moment in a past event of trauma and they sit in that moment. Oh, but it's the moment I'm feeling terrible. Oh, this moment I feel sad. Oh, this moment I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But that moment has passed. The past is in the past. It's very difficult to fix anything in the past. Okay, it's not very difficult. It's impossible to fix things in the past. And now you let your mind go play there. Okay, so practice being present in the present. Right, that is a huge skill to have in today's world because every thought, every action that people are busy with takes them out of the present. What are we going to have for lunch? What are we going to do next? What did you think about that one? What happened yesterday? Did you hear what happened to this guy? But there's this whole timeline between the future and the past that just gets pulled apart. Okay. A nice exercise to do to practice being in the present. Of course, meditation helps, but most people use meditation as a takeaway shop and as an escape. I want to escape from reality. That's not really meditation. So a nice thing to do is to take a candle, have a candle burn, and just observe it with a relaxed gaze and try not to blink. And try and focus on the movement of the candle as it moves. And see how long you can do that for. Easier said than done. Right. Now, this candle training comes from martial arts training that I've been doing for years and years and years. But what that does is it puts the mind on a focus on the flame. And once you can see the flame move without blinking, your eyes need to be relaxed. If your eyes are tense, if your body's tense, you're not going to keep your eyes open. Yes, they want to blink, they will start to burn. Your body will start to feel uncomfortable. So you sit and observe a flame. That sounds like horror for a busy mind, but if you practice that, your mind can become calmer. Okay, and it probably doesn't have to be a flame. The flame is just interesting to watch because it sometimes moves and it's just like these little twitches. You can do anything, just observe it. Okay, once you observe it with full attention, the mind doesn't have lots of chance to go somewhere else. Okay, so coming back to your list, let's go a bit deeper into the practical. If you wrote down something that's challenging, if you wrote down something that's urgent, okay, what does the urgency do to your body? How does that urgency make you feel? What is the feedback of the nervous system? What's happening in your mind? What's happening in your body when you read the urgency? What's happening to your breath? Okay. That you need to observe. Right. If you do not feel anything with that, that's also okay, but you must experience what urgency means, what's its effect on the body, otherwise it doesn't exist. If it doesn't have an effect on your body, how does it exist? How do you know you're actually feeling it? Okay, interesting question. But people do not question. They throw words. I'm like, okay, but what does that feel like? What does it do to your nervous system? What does it do to your breathing? What does it do to your state of mind? How does your body respond to all of this? And then once you have the urgency and you have that feeling down, what is the thing that will counter the feeling? Okay, if it's a bad one. Lisa, excitement. Oh, okay. If something urgent is excited, that's a nice way to look at it. That comes to observing stress, because what is your belief surrounding stress? Are challenges really a bad challenge or is it an exciting challenge? That's actually quite a nice way to look at it. Okay, if you're stressed out and there are more challenges coming out, what's your belief surrounding those challenges? Okay, the power of belief is insane. What people do with different words, because all of us on this planet experiences stress. But some people just have a different opinion and belief surrounding stress. Is stress good for you? Does it get you out of bed? Is stress debilitating? Does it make you sick? People have different ideas surrounding this word stress. So excitement, I like excitement, Lisa. I'm glad this is something to be excited about. Okay, so it all goes about the framing, the words that you use, how you observe it. And when you combine those things together, then the mind can actually go, okay, can relax a bit. All right. Another thing, final thing for tonight. If you expand your mind, okay, because we now know the mind can go anywhere, right? If you expand your mind to this whole planet that we're on, to all almost 8 billion people, that's living out their stories, that's busy with all the different challenges. Somebody's dying at this moment. There are children being born at this moment. Somebody's getting bad news at this moment. Somebody's getting good news at this moment. So it's weird to let the mind play around this whole planet and just feel and imagine what it feels like with all these people playing out their stories. Now, what that does is it expands the mind to a bigger picture. In that planetary function across the planet, how big and how challenging are your problems in this current state? Okay, it's amazing to go and go, wow, we've got a whole universe, whole galaxy of planets. It is huge if you just expand your mind and just observe. Okay, how big are your problems actually compared to that? Just helps the mind settle a bit more. Adrian, sometimes the mind blocks out in stressful situations without solving the problem. Most of the time, the mind blocks out in stressful situations without solving the problem. Okay, when you're under stress, actually, I can't remember who I discussed this with during the last couple of weeks, but there was a discussion surrounding if you're in a stressful situation, what happens to your cognitive abilities if you're not relaxed? Do they work better or don't they work better? Why do Formula One drivers get paid so much? Those guys are under a huge amount of stressful situations. The forces that play on their bodies, the stuff that they go through at those speeds, but they have focus and they have a calm mind and they actually can drive at those speeds. Okay, so their cognitive ability is not declining under stressful situations. What is it? Then we need to practice. Okay, but it takes effort to learn how to absorb a stressful situation, take the responses your body is going through it without judging it, and then actually try and learn from that situation. The more you train it, the better it becomes. And what's the easiest way to do that is by training physically stressful things. Okay, doing physically challenging things and trying to keep the mind calm. All right. Like running a marathon, like training, like doing anything. All right. So the mind does switch off in stressful situations. It doesn't want to solve the problem. Why? Why would it? It's easier to switch. Okay, you lose your IQ if you don't control your mind. Yeah, Lisa, IQ's got nothing to do with the control of the mind. Okay, but the intelligence, yes. I've met some highly intelligent people that are highly stressed, and I've met some people that don't even use their minds, and they're also highly stressed. So I don't think it's got to do with intellect. I think it's got to do how you use the intellect, because those people with a sharp intellect usually turn that sharpness on themselves, and they judge themselves, hammer themselves, talk themselves. It's amazing what happens when that sharp intellect turns on a person. Okay. Okay, that's what I mean. All right. Okay. All right. So if you're very observant, if you are slightly connected to this planet, if you have a bit of a brain that you try to use for yourself, you are going to encounter stress, disappointment. You're going to go, what the hell is happening on this planet? Sometimes things just doesn't make sense. Okay, but that's a natural state of affairs. Don't let the mind run away with fantasies. Ask and anchor it in the present moment, because you can see it, especially in politics. Okay, people go ballistic over politics. What's this? What's that? Oh, this one did this, this one did that. If you sit back and you ask yourself a very honest question, what will this effect be of the politicians and everybody in my current state of affairs, in my current moment, in this present moment in my life? Very little. Long term, yes, there might be fluctuations in long term stuff like economics, like wars, like whatever. But in the current situation, when you get that news over what happened, like the poor guy that was murdered, that Charlie Kirk guy, I didn't even know who he was. I just saw the video and that was shocking. Because when you see videos like that, your nervous system responds as if you were at that experience yourself. There's this mirror neuron effect that goes, yes, this trauma happened to you. So that's also scary, because you must limit what you see. But sometimes we cannot limit what we see, especially with social media these days. All right. But if that happens, and you sit back and people freak out, oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about this? It's like, okay, but wait a minute. That is a sad experience. It's not nice to see, it's not nice to witness, but how does it affect your life in its current situation in this present moment? Just ask yourself that question. Just calm the mind down a bit and realize how much of it is affecting you and how much not. That's how we train our minds. So The social media is a good and a bad thing. There's no such thing as only good, only bad. It gives us the opportunity to observe so many things and try and sit back and calm and anchor the mind. But it also, some people get lost in it and it causes stress. Okay, it's not the tool, it's the perception of the tool. That's important. You all know the saying about a knife. You can cut a person with a knife, or you can bread with a knife, right? I think it goes for so many things on this planet. The tool that you use. Money is the root of all evil. No, greed is the root of all evil, not money. Money is just a tool that we need to survive. It's one of those things that we need on this planet, in this reality. Okay, it's not the tool itself, it's the intent it's being used for. So that's quite nice to actually step back and observe it in that format. Alrighty. Sure, the half an hour went by again quickly. Okay, guys, so let's just recap. Writing things down, crucially important for mind clutter. If your mind is cluttered, it is important to go and write things down, what's bothering you, doesn't matter what it is. See what is the most urgent thing and what's the least urgent thing. So what can wait and what's urgent. So the mind can just know, okay, this is urgent. So it can spend resources and time on that. And then watch your breathing. The box breathing, 4-4-4 breathing, or 4-4-6 breathing. Just watch the breathing. The breathing helps a lot with resetting the mind and calming it. Okay. Habitual sayings. What do you say to yourself and other people the whole time? Observe what those words are. And then anchoring yourself in the present. Okay, those things will help a lot. Right, Adrian, how important is breathing when you feel overwhelmed in stressful situations? Extremely important. It is crucial. Have you ever noticed if you're in a stressful situation, I don't know if you know what your perineum is, but your perineum is a little muscle that lies between the genitals and the anus. It's usually the easiest way to understand this muscle is to when you urinate to hold the urine back, you need that muscle to hold the urine back. That little perineum is amazing what happens to it when you're under stress. Okay. It shuts down, clamps up. Most people stress. So it's important to release that and breathe. So breathing cannot be understated in stressful situations. Okay, so every time you feel stress coming, but you must be aware that you're stressed. So just take a couple of deep breaths, like the 4-4-4-4 breathing or the 4-4-6 breathing, and see how it feels. All right, so yeah, breathing is crucial in stressful situations. Okay, when it comes to breathing during the day, how often do we breathe deep? You know, often people sigh. There was a study being done, I can't remember, but I was surprised to hear how the average person, how many times a day they go, because we don't breathe, we suffocate ourselves. Now the lungs must go and sigh it out. Okay. So watch your breathing during the day, not just under stressful situations. It does help to every now and again take a deep breath. And just for a couple of minutes or so. Well, no, it doesn't have to be a quite long time. It can be 40 to 60 seconds will definitely have an effect. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Practice the breathing a lot. All right, anybody else, any other questions? So I hope this helps, especially during this time of the year. There's overwhelm, there's so many things happening with people, so many things happening in the world, but I think those things have always happened. We are just getting exposure to them now because nothing can remain hidden for too long on this planet. Something happens. It's like viral how things just spread. Okay. But if you want to take one takeaway and just let the mind relax, the breathing is the most important one that you can do without too much effort. You can take your breath anywhere. The second most important one I'll say will be the writing. Writing things down is actually crucial. Again, it doesn't matter if you type them on a computer or if you write them with your hand, it's more or less the same. You can choose. All right. So I hope this helps. I hope you actually take that practical of writing things down, doing the breathing, and you go and do them and play with them. And then be aware of your breath while you're writing. All right. So for the last minute or two, I want you to sit comfortably, whether you're in a chair, whether you're wherever you are. Okay. Just make sure the body's comfortable. That thing that was so urgent on your list that you wrote down. Okay. I want you to put it in your mind. Close your eyes. Breathe deep and breathe slow while you imagine that urgent thing that was on your list. Okay. So inhale slowly, exhale slowly, and try and soften the breathing by letting it flow in, letting it flow out while you just observe that urgent thing that was on your list and breathe. And as you breathe and observe that urgent thing in your mind, what can you control and what can't you control? Breathe and just allow those answers to come up. The things that you cannot control and cannot change, can you let them go? Is it okay to accept them? As you breathe, ask yourself if acceptance is okay with the urgent thing and things you can't control, because with acceptance comes a certain amount of relaxation. Right? You are not a superhuman being. You are a human after all. So it's okay not to be able to do everything. It's okay not to be able to fix everything. It's okay not to be able to handle the emotions sometimes. It's okay to break down. It's okay to actually go through this whole journey and accept it. And as you accept that, breathe through this whole story. And now just 2 times. Inhale deeply. Inhale again. And exhale slow. And another time. Inhale deeply. Inhale again. And exhale slowly. And then just relax, normal breathing. Okay. Quick, easy, effective way just to calm down the mind and to refresh and reset a bit. Okay, Almarie, die asemhaling help my baie as ek oortelp raak. Keer sommer die chunk stroom. Okay. Let's just get that out of the way quickly because this is a whole other can of worms. We don't want to stop the emotion. Yes, the breathing can help, and you cannot be emotional. So if there are certain situations where you're stressed, breathe, go through it. But that emotion that you suppress will have to find another way to manifest or come out in any other way. So we don't want to, ons wil nie die chunkstroom keer nie, moet uitkom. Okay, maar het moet uitkom in die regte omstandighede. En dit kan nie altyd uitkom wanneer ons wil hê dit moet uitkom nie. Maar ja, onthou net alles wat jy gaan onder druk, gaan ergens 'n uitlaat moet vind. It's baie vreemd. Okay. So I hope this helped. Let's welcome Linda. I hope this makes sense. It's just a crucial reminder every end of the month or every Sagasi Sundays that these things work. And if they are there, let's use them. They don't cost any money. They are free to use. You can carry your breath with you anywhere. You can write something down anywhere. Okay, you can bring your mind in the present moment anywhere. Right? You can listen to your habitual sayings anywhere. Just become aware of them. Okay, it's crucial that is, yeah, that will make for a way more peaceful mind. All right, Rina, awesome, dankie. Is welkom, Rina. Christel, baie dankie. Is welkom, Christel. Yes, welcome, Adrian. I hope this helped a lot, guys, and enjoy it.